Everybody, how you doing? Well, that's good. My name is Bill Matz. I'm your director of fun and games for the evening. Welcome to PHLY Flyers post game. I am joined tonight by the one and only Philadelphia's #1 hockey beat reporter, Charlie O'Connor. What's up, Chuck?
How's it going, Bill? You look a little bit different today.
It's going great. I could definitely see and hear and all of that. Should the victory woo be replaced by the victory woof? Is that what we're doing here? Do I have to do both now?
It's a good question. I feel like that's I would say probably do both.
Okay.
But you can make up that decision for yourself. You're the one who actually has to make the noises.
As always, PHLY Flyers is brought to you by our friends at Mortgage CS. More on them in a little bit. I can now take off this. That was impossible. For anyone who thought I was going to do the whole show like that, I'm sorry. It wouldn't have worked.
Yeah, but that would have been a little rough.
We got the victory woo. We got the victory wolf in. I'm sticking to this dog mask thing. Charlie, 4 in a row now for the Flyers. They go 3-0 on the road trip, 2 wins without Sean Couturier and Jamie Drysdale. I posed this question to you whenever the hell we last talked. Saturday? Yeah, that was their last
Saturday.
game, right?
Yeah, and today's Monday.
I have
Days
to.
aren't real.
Yeah, who knows? I will have to. I'll have to ask it again. Has a rebuilding team ever won the Stanley Cup?
No.
Not to my knowledge,
I don't
right?
think so. Yeah, I don't think so.
Lot to get to about this one. Flyers win in St. Louis to close out the road trip. They close out the road trip perfect, 4-2. Fun game tonight. Maybe you might have had your attention split between something else going on in Philly sports. If you were paying attention to the Flyers, if you're with us here tonight, thank you very much for your patronage, and you were rewarded for your loyalty to the Orange and Black with that victory. Lots of things that we need to talk about in this one. I want to start out with just the resiliency of this team. Now, we've talked about the roller coaster, and not so much a roller coaster, but just the ride that has been this season. You know, they start out 3-1, then it's, oh man, they're better than we thought. Take a little dip there, and it was, all right, this is more what we expected. Then they just are dominating. They just win, they win 12 out of 14 or something. And then, of course, Christmas.
Right.
Well, they go on the Disney on Ice trip. They went to Detroit. They do the whole West Coast thing.
Predictably, the Disney on Ice trip ends poorly.
It was bad, as usually is the case. And we think, all right, it's the second half of the season coming. Teams are going to start to turn it up. The Flyers have, to everyone's, even the most optimistic fan has to be like, well, they overachieved to this point. Now they're good again. It was just that little blip. They told us that the losses were coming, and they came, and now the wins are here again. It's going to be something I ask every show for the next, whatever's left, 38 games or whatever. What is the ceiling of this team? They just keep winning. I have trouble believing this team's going to miss the playoffs when they, usually win.
Bill, I'm going to choose not to inject this show with pessimism.
Not tonight.
What I will say is that I am still pessimistic, but I am not going to articulate that because I'm going to let everyone be happy, because people have enough pessimism to deal with watching the Eagles doing what the Eagles are doing. So I'm not going to be pessimistic. I'm just going to take the fifth.
We're both sitting here in Eagles stuff. I was going to say The Who, and then I was like, no. First of all, great band, but I can't sit here and pretend like I wasn't at least a little invested in the Eagles tonight. That said, we've done post games following some Phillies playoff games at the same time as some Phillies playoff games. That was not the vibe tonight.
Yeah.
Kind of had the game on over here on one of our other TVs, and it was like, oh, yeah, something bad happened. Well, back to the Flyers.
There we go.
And that's kind of how I felt tonight. And just talk a little about this successful road trip, to win 3 on the road the way they have, and 2 of them without their 1C, and, well, they just got him. So it's like, well, they played 2 games with Jamie Drysdale. We can't, they did it without Drysdale. But he is, at worst, their second best defenseman, as soon as they acquired him. It takes a little something. Is it just the makeup of this team? Is it the coaching? Like, how are they able to do this pretty regularly?
I really think it's the coaching. I really do. Because, like, I still look at this team, and especially when Sean Couturier is not in the lineup, and it's like, okay, so now your centers are Morgan Frost, Scott Lawton, Ryan Poehling, and a Noah Cates who hasn't played for 7 weeks. Like, that is not a great hockey team. That's not even a good hockey team. I'm sorry. It's not. So to me, like, if you're still doing this without Sean Couturier in the lineup, I am of the opinion that Sean Couturier is a legitimate 1C at the NHL level. I am very high on Sean Couturier. I am probably higher on Sean Couturier than a lot of Flyers fans are on Sean Couturier.
Well, that's been the case since he was 18 years old.
Yeah, pretty much. But my point is that if you are able to do what you did the last 2 games without him, like, I am not willing to be like, no, I'm wrong, and Ryan Poehling is actually a second-line center on a cup contender. Like, I'm not. He's not. This is coaching. This is a coach who has a team playing above its talent level because they are executing a system that works at the NHL level. And you probably can't survive without Sean Couturier for a month because eventually it's going to catch up with you. But in short bursts, you can do it if you are playing sound hockey, if you are playing structured, cohesive, team-focused hockey. And clearly that's what they're doing because they're able to, They outplayed the Jets the first half of that game on Saturday. They eventually ran out of gas, and then Sam Harrison shut the door. Tonight, granted, the Blues are not a great team. They're probably a bad team, but the Flyers kicked the shit out of them.
Yes.
I mean, they were better than them from start to finish in this game. This wasn't even, like, this could have been a 6-2 game.
This was a boring game.
Yeah.
It was just kind of like the Flyers are dominating. We know what they miss most, and it's high-end talent. That's why they don't capitalize on a lot of their chances. And I think they play a lot of artificially close games because of that. Like, it's not even like they're getting goalied. It's just like, they don't have high-end finishers.
Exactly.
Your best goal scorer is Owen Tippett, who, yes, had an awesome goal tonight.
Well,
also had
me, but
Konechny. I have trouble, like, he's their best, like,
player.
Something. I don't even know
if player.
I don't even know if I call it a goal. Yes, he has the most goals, so he's the best goal scorer. But it's like he's their best, just like spark play. I don't know. Yes, but he is better than Tippett. But like Owen Tippett has 1,400 shots on goals tonight. Eventually, he scores a beautiful goal to win it, and we're going to talk about him in just a minute.
Talk about that.
But like they could have won this game 6-0. You'd be like, yeah, okay, that's about right.
Yeah,
but
they end up with 41 shots. They had, I think, like 31 or 33 by the end of the first period, or by the end of the second period. We'll get to Owen Tippett. Owen Tippett had 5 shots on goal after 1 period of play. Like, the Flyers overwhelmed the Blues, and they overwhelmed the Blues without Sean Couturier. And like, it's hard for me to say that the absence of Jamie Drysdale is a big deal
because they haven't
had him, but he's clearly a dynamic player.
He's a good player who they had. Now they don't. Like, I'm going to include it, especially since it's good narrative to make the Flyers look better. I'm going to do that.
Yeah.
I will say, and this is something I wanted to touch on. We got a super chat question last show that asked us to acknowledge that the Jets were without. We mentioned Kyle Connor, also without PHLY. And so, okay, maybe it's not quite, but like the Jets are one of the best teams in the league, and the Flyers are not.
They won 8 straight games.
Yeah,
they were
they're really
home.
good.
They were rested. Like, I am not willing to brush aside that loss because they didn't have Scheifele.
And like we didn't.
To me, the reason why I didn't even discuss it is because it didn't change the fact that the Flyers had almost everything going against them on Saturday, and they still won.
Like, the Flyers were in a back-to-back without their 1C and without Drysdale. Like, or at worst, it's a push here with who they're missing. But I mentioned that to mention the Blues. While they are not a good team, probably a bad team, have already fired their head coach Greg Berube. They haven't been horrible for the last month. They were 13-14-1 in mid-November. They're 8-4-1 now, 8-5-1 since then. Like, they've been better. They're right around the 8th seed, so it's not like, or the second wild card, 8th seed, whatever you want to call it. They're not like the Blue Jackets or something. They're not a horrible team. But I just wanted to point, they haven't been quite as bad. And now, this isn't even where I was going to start, but we mentioned him, and he was every freaking where tonight. Owen Tippett. How many? What was the final count of shots on goal?
Final Owen Tippett shot
I think it was
counter,
11 or 12.
It was 10.
10.
10
Okay.
shots on goal for Owen Tippett.
Has the beauty of a game winner. Just
incredible goal.
We're going to talk about the rumors with Nick Seeler and how that affects Sean Walker, et cetera, and a little bit into this show. But Owen Tippett is a RFA after this season, acquired along with the this year's first round pick from the Panthers in the G trade. Honestly, the best thing Chuck Fletcher did.
Probably.
Right?
Yeah,
like,
probably.
Considering all the restraints.
Yes.
G is only going to one team, and he made that known. It was obvious. And you're able to come away with what, he screwed up a lot. And I spent a year opening a thesaurus to come up with different synonyms for imbecile for Chuck Fletcher. Hard to argue with him success in that trade with Florida.
I still think, because there are still people on Twitter, on Flyers Twitter, who whenever Owen Tippett has a meh game, they start saying you should trade him. And I honestly believe, but here's the thing, I believe that is all still residual, because the big thing you hear is that his hockey IQ isn't good. And the thing is that was the main complaint that a lot of people had about him before he got traded. And that was what everyone who was like, the Flyers got nothing for Claude Giroux. They got this guy who has no hockey IQ back for him. I think all of the residual Owen Tippett skepticism is just it's a reflexive belief that anything Chuck Fletcher had his fingerprints on must be bad.
And fair.
I'm sorry, if you're watching Owen Tippett play, you have to acknowledge that he's not the guy you thought they were trading for.
16,
he's way better.
16 goals, a little past the halfway point. I don't know, man. It's the idea of trading him. I mean, if he is to make it known, I'm hitting the market. And if you want me to stay, I'll take 8 times 7. All right.
Yeah,
maybe we need to have that conversation.
If he wants an insane contract, but if you can get him somewhere in the $5 to $6 million a year range for the rest of his 20s, I race to do that deal.
And I guess that's the question now is what is the framework you're willing to accept with Owen Tippett? Because we touched a little bit on this on Saturday. While I want Owen Tippett here, one, it's what you got for G, first round pick from Florida, notwithstanding. It's going to be the 26th pick or something. It's what you got for Claude Giroux, one of the greatest Flyers of all time, and he seems to be, at worst, a pretty damn good player.
Yeah, my viewpoint is I don't they got him for Claude Giroux. That is irrelevant to me in terms of making a decision on whether to keep him. What is relevant is that he's a darn good player, and I want him part of this.
It's secondary to me, but I think it matters a little. G is not the dude's my age. He ain't gonna. It's not like he's gonna be a part of this. He would have been a part of this thing when the team's good, and definitely not high end. Probably,
it's fair.
But it is he's a legendary dude in this town.
Yeah.
While I loved Kim Janssen, him and Pavel Brendel and whatever the hell else.
I was wondering
that was not enough.
I'm why are you bringing up Kim Janssen?
That was not enough for Eric Lindros.
Yeah, that's fair.
It was a nice little return and everything, but Owen Tippett, this seems like it could be something. He's going to be an RFA after this year, and what I'm looking at right now, I don't think you can get him for this price. Under 7 is the goal. Depending on years.
I would be trying to get him under 6. To me, a lot of this comes down to how he finishes the year.
Yeah.
Right now he has.
No, if he sucks for the rest of the year.
He has. What was that? Was that his 15th or 16th? That was his 16th goal. He has 4 goals in his last 5 games, so he's hot. Now, if this keeps up the rest of the season and he finishes with 40, then you're going to have to pay him a lot. If he finishes somewhere in that 26 to 30 range, if this is just him playing peak Owen Tippett hockey and then he's going to dip a little bit, I don't think it's insane to think you might be able to get him for something 5.75 over 6 or 7 years. And to me, I would run to do that deal because I said this on Twitter, I've said this on the show a bunch of times. To me, Owen Tippett, look, it would be amazing if he breaks out further and becomes a yearly 40, 45 a goal a year guy. And then I will happily pay him, star level money because he deserves it. But to me, I see Owen Tippett as the ideal depth guy. And by depth guy, I don't mean a Scott Lawton. I mean the guy who is in the tier below the true stars, who you don't necessarily depend upon Owen Tippett to be great every night. The way that the Flyers had to depend upon Claude Giroux and Jake Voracek to be great every night, because if they weren't winning. To me, Owen Tippett ideally is like on your second line, or maybe he's on your third line, but he gets second line minutes, and he isn't
Power play time bumps him up, whatever.
You don't have to have him be great every night, but if he's great 4 out of 10 games and he single-handedly wins you 2 of them, and he's doing that behind Matvei Michkov, Sean Couturier, Travis Konechny, some other guy they get in trade or free agency or via the draft who's also real good. To me, that's his ideal spot on a contender. And if you can get him for under 6, I think he's getting paid like that kind of guy. And to me, that's perfect.
I'm using this comparable because I do think ultimately Tippett's probably going to finish around where he did last year, that 27 goal mark. Maybe he stays hot.
We'll see. Maybe he's just about to have the monster second half that is going to drive his numbers.
It's very well possible. He's also the streaky guy. We said he's hot right now, so we're hot on him.
Yeah, of course.
I'm looking at a comparable Travis Konechny deal. He signed following he was an RFA. He signed following a year in which he went 24 goals, 49 points. The season prior, he went 24 goals, 47 points. So, I'm looking at Tippett kind of finishing. All right, he did what he did last year overall, in total production. He got Konechny at 6 years and $5.5 million. I am sprinting.
Yeah.
To sign Owen Tippett to that deal.
I totally agree with that. It'll be a little bit different because there's a couple, it's not the cleanest comparison. I don't disagree with it, but
closest comparison I could make on this team.
You have the fact that, number one, and this is important for contracts. I think a lot of people don't realize that this is actually an important factor.
Cap percentage?
Not even that. I will get to that.
Okay.
What I'm saying is that Konechny was productive immediately upon joining an NHL team and has better career numbers when he went into that negotiation than Owen Tippett does, because Owen Tippett was kind of in limbo for the first few years. There's a reason why the Flyers got him. It's because Florida didn't have a spot for him because he was bouncing. Konechny hit his negotiation with better career stats to be able to pound the table and say, I deserve more. So I think Tippett won't have that leverage. However, you also have to account for what you said, which is the cap has gone up. So cap percentage. So even if the equivalent, I can't do this math in my head right now because I'd have to actually figure out what the cap was then versus what the cap is now. But giving Owen Tippett the Travis Konechny deal would not be giving him $5.5 million a year. It would probably be giving him something a little over 6.2 because of the percentage. I would have to work that out to know the exact, but know that giving him the same percentage of the cap ceiling that Konechny got is not just going to be 5.5. It's going to be more than 5.5 because back then the cap ceiling was maybe 79.5 mil. And then this summer it's going to be
close to 90.
Nah, well, this summer it'll be
it's only going up 4.5
86, 87, something like that. So not enormous, but higher than it was when Konechny signed that deal.
And you also have to account for it's going to continue to go up. We're told. At least until 26, I think, when the CBA runs out. So we'll see. It'll probably be back down to 75 in 10 years. But no, I am very much looking forward to seeing how this Tippett thing plays out. I want to talk about, I told you, Nick Seeler in a little bit. We're hearing the rumblings that they want to keep him. Nick Seeler is a dude that they are going to want to re-sign. We're not really hearing that about Owen Tippett. Now, difference being UFA, RFA.
Right. They have to make a decision on Seeler.
They have to make a decision on Seeler, trade him or keep him.
It's one of those deadline spare action. If you don't trade him at the deadline, then you're either losing him for nothing or you're re-signing him. Whereas with Tippett, he's an RFA, so you don't have to sign him immediately. So I think that's the big thing. But I will acknowledge that it is interesting that we have not heard any. And honestly, it very well could be Tippett's camp too. Look, if Owen Tippett has a great second half, he is going to be able to ask for a lot more than the pace he was on in the first half when it looked like he was going to finish with 28, 29 goals. If he finishes with 38 goals, suddenly he can ask to be in an entirely different pay bracket.
And that gets me to, I guess, that conversation we had a little on Saturday, just of how many middle-class guys can you afford?
It's fair.
You have Farabee. You have Konechny for next season?
Next season.
Next season at 5.5.
Yep.
Obviously,
you're gonna have to pay him.
Couturier,
if you want to keep connected, you're gonna have to pay him like a high end player.
Couturier more in the high end than middle class, but 7.75.
Yeah, but even
like it's not 8 or 9.
It's not. Yeah, and the thing with Couturier is and we'll see how this plays out with with his health and how he ages, but like in 3 or 4 more years, 7.75 is not going to look daunting because like guys are going to be getting 13, 14 mil.
Oh yeah, like. I'm trying to give Patterson 14 right now. I'm trying to give him 12.5, 13, but, whatever it's going to cost, I want him.
Yeah.
No, but like Sanheim, 6.25. Obviously, the Hart situation, that's kind of the like monkey wrench in all of
the
this.
elephant in the room.
He's going to get a big raise, though, if they do end up keeping him. Cam Atkinson, maybe they're able to buy him out, trade him, whatever, but he's making money. It's just like, it's a weird balancing act that they still have to pull off.
Yeah.
So I really want to keep Owen Tippett. And since he's under team control, you'd think maybe they can work something out. Worst case scenario goes to arbitration or something. But I'm looking forward to seeing how this one plays out. I really, really hope they can keep him.
I don't long term. I don't think it's even a concern if they're going to keep him. Like, aside from a few scattered voices on Twitter being like they should trade Owen Tippett, the Flyers are going to re-sign Owen Tippett. To me, the concern is more like, I hope they can get him on a good deal.
In 24-25, he's going to be a Flyer.
Yeah.
I'm thinking more of like the Michkov team should have Owen Tippett because the idea of Michkov faking Michigan, pulling it in, finding Tippett across the slot for a slam dunk is real appealing to
exciting.
me. It's real appealing.
It is absolutely exciting. I think, too, the reason why I'm excited about I wouldn't say I'm excited about the contract because he's going to get a raise. He deserves a raise. But my big fear with signing guys to long-term deals is always the age factor.
They plateau.
It's the age factor. It's the fact that, like, oh, God, like that's always been my fear with Konechny, where Konechny right now is 26. When his contract kicks in,
is that it?
Yeah, he's 26, but like
he's like 28, 29.
I believe he turns 27 in March. I think he's a March birthday. So when his next contract starts, he will be 28. I worry about signing him to a 7-8 year deal because that goes into his mid-30s when guys usually decline. With Tippett, you could sign into a 6-7 year deal, and you don't really have to worry too much about the decline because that only takes him until he's like 31. Like, that's my fear with Hart, too, where, number one, he's a goalie. They break down. Number two, he's on a little bit on the older side. Tippett, to me, is a guy where he's the perfect age to give him a long-term deal because you're basically just paying him through his 20s. You don't have to – you obviously always have to worry a little bit about the aging curve, but when you're paying a guy for his age, like 25, 26, 27, 28, 29 years, like, you expect he's going to be pretty darn good throughout that entire time. So I don't worry about – the aging curve with Owen Tippett the same way I worry about the aging curve with committing long-term to Carter Hart and Travis Konechny.
And I just, like, maybe it's just my bias. Maybe I've just been a Flyers fan too long. And I love Travis Konechny. Like, I want him here. I came into the season saying they have to trade him. I no longer feel that way. I look at the two of them, and now they're using the same stick, apparently. But I look at the two of them and go, who's going to break down first? Probably the little guy whose entire game is energy.
It's fair, but I mean, look at Brad Marchand. I mean, granted, he's probably like a Hall of Famer, but still, like, he's a small guy who plays that style, and he's never broken down.
He's also like thicker. Is like I used to say, Brayden Schenn has the thick trunk. I see that more. I see that. Whatever. I just that's the way I feel. But the idea of keeping Owen Tippett real appealing to me. You know what else is appealing to me?
What is appealing to you, Bill?
It's Bagels and Company, baby. Brooklyn-style bagels made right here with Philly love. They have huge bagels. Absolutely freaking, like this big. Gigantic bagels.
They're large.
The biggest bagels in Philly and a large variety. Not only are they big, there's a ton of them. 15 to 20 different types to choose from. Seasonal bagels. And when you have that many bagels, you need a ton of cream cheeses. You need the toppings. It's all about the toppings, man. 30 different flavors of cream cheeses and schmears. And they have all different fun varieties. Like, yeah, you have your regular cream cheese, all that sort of different stuff. But you want maybe, they have an Eagles one, but maybe they have an orange one.
Yeah,
Bagels & Co., if you're listening,
I am sure.
get on the orange cream cheese.
I mean, the Eagles are about 6 minutes away from their season being over. Bagels and Company is going to have to pivot like the rest of the city is going to have to pivot to the Flyers. And I guess the Sixers, they're good too.
Yeah. Apparently they're good. Yeah. I always forget about that.
I mean, it's really hard to cover the Sixers and the Flyers at the same time when your job is watching a team that plays its games on a lot of the same nights as the other team.
Today, perfect day. They should both play like one in the afternoon, one at night. Anyway, back to Bagels and Company. Listen, tons of bagels, huge bagels, lots of different cream cheese varieties. But the most important thing, affordable. You get a lot of food for cheap, and who doesn't need that, man? So for the best Brooklyn-style bagels made right here in Philly, head to thebagelsandco.com/store-locator to find the closest Bagels and Company near you. That's thebagelsandco.com/store-locator. Just one more thing on Tippet before we move on.
Yeah, we got a super chat.
Oh, we have a super chat. All right, from Corey. He says, do you think the Flyers should make big offer to Sam Reinhart in the offseason?
Okay, I guess I'll take this from a few different avenues. Number one, do not expect that to happen. I do not think the Flyers and Danny Briere are in the mode yet of going and offering $11 million to a big-time free agent. I don't think, there is still part of this. I know everyone's very excited. I know that it's like, they're going to go to the playoffs. This team's great. The Flyers are still in a rebuild. They are still thinking about team building as if they're in a rebuild. There's a reason why, as we're going to talk about it in a little bit, why I still think they're going to trade Sean Walker at the deadline. They are not going to go out and offer Sam Reinhart or anyone 7 years, $12 million a year. It's just not going to happen. Now, should they?
He'll play next season at 29. He's got 31 goals already. His career high is 33. 16 power play goals, which is his career high the previous 2 years. So he's already there, having a career year at the right time.
I think that is why I wouldn't, is because this strikes me as someone where you're paying him for a career year. He's a good player. Look, I wanted the Flyers to trade for Sam Reinhart instead of trading for Rasmus Ristolainen. That was what I wanted them to do that offseason. And instead, they're like, nah, we'll give up the first-round pick for Risto because he's big and he hits. So I like this player. He's a good player. I think you would be overpaying him based on his best year, a year that I would not necessarily expect him to replicate, and add in the age factor. No, I would not go for him.
That's why I'm much more inclined to try to target some offer sheet RFAs, a little younger. But no, do you think the timeline of a guy like that, if they are to get to that point and have sufficient cap space, would be Michkov here or even maybe a year prior? So he's here when Michkov arrives.
I could see it.
In that time, 2 to 3 years rather than right now when you're still so up in the air.
Let me put it this way. I think, let's say this year continues to go the way it's going. They make the playoffs as a bubble team. They're one of the wild cards or whatever. And, they put a scare into the first round team, or maybe they win a round and then lose the Hurricanes or something, or the Rangers or whatever in round 2. I think the Flyers would look at it as this is gravy. We're ahead of schedule, but we're not going to go crazy in free agency. Then if next year they take a further step, then I think it's off to the races time. Then it's all right. Now we're in the free agent world, and we're like, all right, we're going to go for when we might make that ad. I don't think it would be very difficult for me to envision a scenario beyond the Flyers going on a miraculous cup run and winning it all and being like the team of destiny, where they then go out this summer and go for a big ticket free agent. I don't think that is in the cards.
Just now, since you mentioned the Rangers real quick, now the Rangers have 2 games in hand. The Flyers have played 44. The Rangers have played 42. Flyers are 2 points back. Just saying.
I mean,
Metro Division title is within reach.
I told you I am not going to be pessimistic on the show. Stop,
Charlie.
Stop throwing crazy things at me to try to bait me into saying that I'm pessimistic.
I am absolutely baiting you.
Yeah, I'm not going to say it.
I'm giving you the opportunity.
No, I'm not going to say it because I haven't changed my mind.
I'm giving you the opportunity right now, Charlie. Get on the bandwagon before it's a bandwagon. That's all. Eagles season ended in about 3 minutes. It's time. Now's the time. Whole city's going to be on board in the morning.
Okay.
All right. No, listen.
Okay.
Do I think the Flyers are going to win the Metro? I don't. I'm just acknowledging that mathematically It is within reach.
It is within reach.
And you are the mathematician.
Yes.
You went to school for I think applied science and mathematics.
I sure did it.
No, I don't think
Not
that's
even
true
a little
either.
bit.
No.
Not even close.
Okay. Noah Cates returns tonight. That's where I'm going with this next.
Yes.
Noah Cates is back. I think it was 21 games he missed. The last time he played, interestingly enough, was the 1-0 shootout win over the Islanders, which was our watch party, and returns for the Eagles watch party. So a little continuity there just for things I think about.
Just closing the loop, you know.
For things I think about. What did you think of Noah Cates tonight? I thought he had some energy, especially in the first two periods.
Yeah, I thought he
was to be expected.
I thought he had a really good first period.
Yeah.
I thought he was noticeable. I thought he was seeing the ice well. I thought he was quick, which isn't usually a word I would use to describe Noah Cates' game. I just think he was running on adrenaline. He was probably excited. He's missed a lot of
First
time.
game back, yeah.
And not only that, he had a rough start to the season. I think there is probably part of him really wants to make up for lost time. You know, maybe he felt like he was finally starting to maybe get into something of a rhythm. He had the game where he got hurt. John Tortorella said on multiple occasions they put him at wing and they asked for more offense out of him in that game. And Tortorella said that was his best game in weeks. And then the poor kid gets hurt.
And then he breaks his foot.
So I think there probably was an element of trying to make up for lost time. First period, he had a lot of jump. He's missed 7 weeks. So probably he wore down a little bit because he's missed 7 weeks and he's got to get himself back into, legitimate hockey shape, game shape. But I liked what I saw from him in the first period. I'm happy that he's back. It will be very interesting to see how this plays out when Couturier can come back, because as we've talked about over the last couple shows, there is a bit of a lineup logjam at the moment. They were able tonight to go back to 12-6. When Sean Couturier comes back in the lineup, what will they do? Presumably Jamie Drysdale will get over this illness sometime soon. Suddenly you have too many players for lineup spots. In the here and now, Noah Cates, I thought, had a perfectly fine return game. He did not look out of place. He had a real good first period, to my eyes, and I want him in the lineup every night. I wonder how they are going to accommodate that when Couturier and Drysdale are back and Cates is still here.
That leads perfectly into a conversation I want to have about Bobby Brink, but I feel like it's too early in the show to be negative. Not negative, but no one wants to see Bobby Brink sent down. Right?
No, I don't.
But
that would be not fun.
No, it would be not fun. But we started this conversation on Saturday. 12:31 ice time tonight. Not a ton guys played less than him.
Yeah,
Delorier 11.
It was Delorier and Cates who was coming back from a 7-week absence.
One shot on goal, no points, no hits. 12:31 on ice. Bobby Brink is. He played over 10. Yeah, and that hasn't been the case a lot lately. But he's not exactly got the coach's confidence right now.
Still hasn't scored a point in 2024.
Yeah, that's 6 or 7 straight without a point for him. Do you think that's the easiest solve, at least until all right, we figured all this out, send him down at least until the deadline when maybe a couple guys get moved and then he comes back up. Maybe someone else comes up.
Maybe, but I don't know what forwards they're going to move. Maybe you set him down until guys get hurt because injuries happen. I don't know. I don't want to talk about a Bobby Brink demotion tonight. We talked about it on Saturday, and it's too negative. I want this to be a positive show.
I agree.
There's a reason why I'm why do you keep setting me up to express pessimism? I don't want to express pessimism.
I don't know if this is pessimism.
Want to.
This isn't so much pessimism as just a possible solve to a problem. And it's a numbers crunch right now.
To me, my preferred solution to this problem, at least to the forward problem, is to sit Delorier. That is my preferred solution.
It's most people's preferred solution. However, we know that probably isn't going to be, at least maybe it becomes like a Stahl-Zamoulis situation where you're rotating them. It's not an every night thing.
He's not an every night guy anymore, but I don't think he's just going to get parked in the press box.
Even
if his play probably warrants it.
I would be surprised by that. All right, Charlie, you have balked at several of my topic ideas. So I guess it's probably time to get to the big story, off-ice story.
Okay.
And that's the Nick Seeler stuff.
Yeah. So to give some background here, basically this all came about because Elliot Friedman on 32 Thoughts. And look, Elliot Friedman is the premier insider in the NHL today. So when he says something, it immediately becomes a conversation for the next week. Like, that's just the way it is. And Elliot Friedman said today on 32 Thoughts that he has heard from other teams, not from the Flyers, not from Nick Seeler's camp, but from other teams, that when they have asked about Nick Seeler, the Flyers have told them, we want to re-sign him. So, like, don't necessarily expect that he's going to be available at the deadline. You never know, but their intention is to try and re-sign Nick Seeler, which is interesting because Nick Seeler is obviously a pending unrestricted free agent. He is a rental with a very cheap cap hit, who a lot of people have looked at for a long time as someone who they're obviously going to sell at the deadline. Now you are hearing that other teams are hearing from the Flyers. That might not be the case. The Flyers may have their sights set on trying to re-sign Nick Seeler. Kevin Kurz reported before the game. I assume, I'm not going to say I know this because this is Kevin Kurz who reported it, so he's the one who did the background research. He's the person who got a response. My assumption is this came directly from Nick Seeler's agent, because basically Kurz reported that nothing has started in terms of talks yet. Obviously, it makes sense that the Flyers might be interested in exploring this, but they're not down the road yet. So to me, this is very much the Flyers have in their heads that they might be willing to re-sign Nick Seeler, and they are preparing other teams for the possibility that come March 8th, Nick Seeler might not be available because he might be on a brand new 2 or 3 year contract.
My hope is that this is a tremendous negotiation ploy, and Danny Briere is like, I don't know, we kind of like him. You want Nick Seeler, it's going to cost a whole lot more than a 3rd round pick.
It's possible.
It's
possible.
Nick Seeler has become, under the tutelage of John Tortorella and Brad Shaw, a solid defenseman. He's playing in the top 4. He's blocking 100 shots a night. He had like 7 with 10 minutes left in the game tonight. I don't know how many he finished with, but sounds like a whole lot.
He finished with 8 tonight. 8 block shots, including one that looked really painful.
Yeah, it looked like it got him like on the inside of the thigh or the ankle, somewhere over there in a ton of padding. It looked like it hurt. I like Nick Seeler. He's a nice success story, has really turned himself into something. Good culture guy, tough as hell. He's going to be 31 in June. Considering what they've done with, we can name every defenseman on the team, really.
Yeah.
How bad do you really need to keep Nick Seeler? Now, again, I like him, and it's not the end of the world, because I got to believe, like, a dude who's going to be going into his age 31 season, and his career high is 14 points in 77 games, and he's basically on pace for the same total this year, is going to get like $1 million and a half. This is not the end of the world cap-wise.
I mean, I don't think
what could you possibly pay him?
I would think, if I had to guess, I would project he gets somewhere in the 2s.
I mean, again, still not the end of the world. He's 7.75 right now, so he's basically like league minimum. My biggest thing, it's not even like I want higher end guys, which I do. I'm looking at Sanheim, signed forever. Drysdale, signed for 2 more years after this year, and he's really freaking good.
Yeah, and also, I mean, you want him to be part of your core.
Yeah,
you just trade a Cutter
Gauthier for him. Yeah. He better be part of the core, or you trade him for like another dude who's going to score you 45 goals or something, you know?
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Cam York, assuming he's part of the future as of this moment. Rasmus Ristolainen, signed for a few more years. Seeler makes 5. 6 play.
And Zamula's taken a step forward these last couple weeks. I thought he had another solid game tonight. Obviously, he was involved in that Paling goal. That's my big thing. Like, if they re-sign...
And they have Andre, Bonk.
Yeah.
Like, what are we doing?
If they re-sign Nick Seeler, I am not going to be like railing and being like, this is the dumbest thing. This is such a stupid move. Like, I am not going to be railing against it the way I railed against the Ristolainen trade and the Ristolainen re-signing. However, I do think this is a case... Like, I'll always go back to the Risto thing as like the Ristolainen trade, especially the Ristolainen re-signing, was an example of a team approaching a situation with pre-salary cap thinking. Where, you know what, when you could spend whatever you wanted, like they like Risto because he hits and because he's like an old school type of guy. And if you could spend as much money as you wanted, sure. You know what? Like, overpay a third pair guy because he hits a ton. It's a luxury signing. You have the money. Who cares? But in a cap world, you have to make shrewd decisions to maximize the amount of talent you have on your roster because there's only so much money you can spend on guys. And that's why I hated that signing so much. With Seeler, it's kind of similar. Like they really like Nick Seeler. Nick Seeler in so many ways, like for hockey men just fucking love the guy because he's tough, because he gets the most out of his talent. He blocks shots. He sticks up for teammates. He's a locker room guy. Like you'll love people who are around the game. They fucking love Nick Seeler. He's everything that makes them feel good and warm and happy inside about being in the hockey game. They love it. And I get why you want to keep him. However, you brought up the key point here where you've got Sanheim signed long-term. Drysdale you just traded for. York is young and pretty darn good, at least right now. Ristolainen is signed for more years, and I don't think they want to get rid of him either because Keith Jones freaking loves him.
And he's been good.
And he's been fine. He's overpaid, but he's fine. Igor Zamula is now establishing himself over these last few weeks as a guy who, like, maybe he is a good third-pair defenseman and solid power play 2 guy. That's 5. Nick Seeler, if you sign him for a few more years, now you've got 6. And yes, maybe with Nick Seeler, you could say, well, we sign him and then he can be our like 6-7. He doesn't have to play every night, which like fair, but also if you sign him, that means you're probably overpaying a 7. Like if you sign Nick Seeler to a deal where he's got like a $2.5 million a year cap hit, for a 5-6, that's a perfectly fine deal. Totally cool with that. If he's your 7 because you're like, well, we got to get Emil Andre in there and Oliver Bonk looks real good, he's ready, then suddenly you have an overpaid 7. And you have an overpaid 7 because you really wanted to have Nick Seeler because you love him. And to me, this is an example of a situation where like it will be a hard decision. It will be hard to move on from Nick Seeler. But I think it's the right decision to move on from Nick Seeler. And I think the Flyers in this situation would be blinded by just how much they like Nick Seeler, the style of player he is and the person he is. And instead, you lock yourself into a situation where how does Emil Andre get playing time? How does Oliver Bonk get playing time? Like where do these guys fit? Do you just have to wait for guys to get injured? Because I don't think they want to trade Risto, and then everybody else is pretty much locked in. Like I think this is a case of where does he fit? Aside from the fact that you feel like you need a Nick Seeler.
And the idea, like, all right, maybe we're overpaying a little bit for a 6-7, whatever.
And Boost Wholesale just said he's been playing way better than a 7. You're right. Yeah, he has.
Absolutely.
But if he's on this team and you re-sign him, how does Emil Andre fit in? How does Oliver Bonk fit in? Like you need these guys. Otherwise, why the fuck do you have them?
And that's like it. We've been told all along, like Danny Briere said to you, we've been told, the coach has told us, listen, we know we're having success, but we are still rebuilding. Re-signing Nick Seeler smells a lot like a team that believes its own bullshit. Like, oh no, actually we are this good. And maybe they are. And even I, who am on the bandwagon, am a little blind to it. But it's just like, you don't re-sign a 31-year-old on the year you admit you're rebuilding. And I hate to disparage the man who scored a goal tonight, but we saw them make this mistake maybe-ish with Scott Lawton.
Yeah.
Where it's like, yo, he scored 18 goals. We got to keep him.
It's fair.
Culture and production. Culture and production. And now it's like, okay, he's got 4 goals. Like, and you're not paying Scott Lawton for goals, obviously.
Yeah. It's not like he's not killing you.
No.
But there's also just an element
where
of like,
do these other players play?
Yeah, like where are you going to fit the guys that are supposedly part of this? That's my thing with Seeler is that I just feel like you're getting blinded by all the things you like about him, and you're not acknowledging that like you need some spots for these kids. Otherwise, how's this team? And again, maybe you're right. Maybe the Flyers are just a friggin' wagon, and like all the guys who I think are just okay are actually great. Like I could be totally wrong, but like I don't look at this defense core that they have right now and say to myself like, yeah, that looks like a Stanley Cup winning defense core. I'm sorry, I don't.
No, it clearly doesn't. The other issue is just like, where like Sanheim, yeah, he'd been in the league a while, but we all saw, like, he's got another level to get to. Jamie Drysdale, so young, he has another level. Talk about re-signing Owen Tippett, and it's like, right now I'd give him this money, and then in a couple of years it could be a steal.
Right.
At 31, Nick Seeler is what he is.
Yeah.
There's
if anything, he's only going to get worse.
Like, there's no
this
next...
This is peak Nick Seeler, and if you sign him, he probably next year is worse.
And then
he's 32.
Like, the idea that he might not be in the lineup every night, he played 20 minutes and 21 seconds tonight. As long as John Tortorella was the coach, there could be no scratching Nick Seeler. That's all. Listen, again, don't want to. I like him a lot. And if he was 4 years younger, this wouldn't even be a conversation.
And if you want to, like, we have Monkey and Chicken here saying Sealer Risto. Maybe. And if you want to sell me that the solution here is they re-sign Sealer and then they trade Ristolainen, then I'm much more on board with the idea of re-signing Sealer. But I don't think they're going to trade Ristolainen. I don't think they have any intention of trading Ristolainen. So it's not picking between Sealer and Risto. It's picking Sealer and Risto versus Risto and then having a spot for an Emil Langer and Oliver Bonk.
I do wonder if some of these conversations, and we'll never know until it happens or doesn't, if it's like, oh, you like Sealer? What if you had 6'6" Nick Sealer? How you like him? Like, maybe it's trying to sell them on someone who makes a ton more, and then he becomes your wrist. I'm just trying to.
If this plays out, and at the trade deadline, they make a couple really shrewd moves. Like, there is a scenario where I could be fine with them re-signing Nick Sealer, but it's not keeping everyone on the defense.
Like, defense is it.
Yeah, we trade Walker because Drysdale is now Walker, but beyond that, like, Nick Sealer is just on the defense. Like, he's part of this defense because we think this defense is enough. I don't think this defense core is enough.
Listen, the Flyers started this year with a resolution. It was to rebuild. I bet you, and they're having a little trouble with it. Should we maybe we should transition? You might be having a little trouble with your New Year's resolutions as well. I know. January 15th, mine are out the window. But you know who can really help you with that? It's Factor Meal Kits. Get started on your resolutions with Factor so you're ready for this new year. Factor's ready-to-eat meal delivery takes the stress out of meal prep and planning and sets you up for success in this new year. Skip the grocery stores, prep work, and cooking fatigue. Instead, get chef-created, dietitian-approved meals delivered right to your door. With over 35 meals to choose from per week, including options like keto, calorie smart, vegan and veggie, and more, plus over 55 weekly add-ons, you'll have a ton of nutritious and flavorful options to kickstart your resolutions. Forget frantic lunch preps and rush dinners. Factor's 2-minute meals are your secret weapon in this new year. Fuel up fast with restaurant-quality meals, all delivered right to your door. And Factor now offers loads of snack options as well, like they've got breakfast, they've got smoothies, juices, snacks, and more to keep you going throughout your daily schedule. Skip the overpriced takeout trap. Factor is cheaper and way more delicious than takeout. Get chef-created restaurant-quality meals delivered right to your door. They're ready to heat and eat in just 2 minutes, which means more time for you. And if someone, listen, we'll maybe get to, I don't think we have it tonight, but someone who spends a ton of money, way more than they should on takeout, what a great option to go the other way. Like, did I need wings? No. I should just have something that's actually good for me, cheaper, all of the above. When things get hectic, Factor is flexible. Change your order up every week with plans from 4 to 8 meals per week, or pause or reschedule your deliveries anytime. They are here to help you. Stress less over meal times in the new year. Factor's no prep, no mess meals, free up time otherwise spent shopping, cooking, and cleanup. No more wasting time in the kitchen. Head to factormeals.com/Flyers50 and use code Flyers50 to get 50% off. That's code Flyers50 at factormeals.com/Flyers50 for 50% off. That was a long one, but I think it was informative for the people out there. You don't want to look like me. Go to Factor Meals.
Hey, it's a new sponsor.
It is.
Yeah.
Let's go to the Carter Hart conversation.
Okay.
So in this new year, as I just said like 3 different times, he's made 4 starts in 2024 before tonight. He was 2-2-0 with an .891 save percentage, gave up 14 goals in those 4 games. Tonight, The goals may not have been great, but he ended up stopping 28-30 en route to the victory. That's win number 12 for him. He now pulls 1 win ahead of Samuel Ersson in this competition they have going on. I said it right that time, didn't I?
Ersson?
Ersson?
Ersson.
Ersson?
Ersson.
Ersson. One of these days. It looks like the net is going to be pretty close to 50. I mean, if someone just goes nuts, maybe, but it's going to be pretty close to 50-50. It looks like, at least for the time being.
We're in a 1A, 1B situation.
We are. What did you think of Carter Hart tonight and going forward?
Well, I mean, he probably stopped that second goal. I think he was fine. I think that there is, I'm seeing this a lot on social. And again, like Twitter influences my thinking because I'm on it. And
we work
the loudest people are the ones who are in my mentions. I just get the sense that a lot of people are turning on Carter Hart, and I don't quite think that's fair because while I think he can play better than he has, like, I think a lot of this is just the idea of familiarity breeds contempt.
Shiny new toy.
People have seen Carter Hart for so long. They think they know what he is and what he isn't, and they don't know what Ersson is. And Ersson is now the shiny new toy that everyone's excited about, and he looks so much better in their minds than Hart because, number one, NHL teams haven't figured out quite how to attack Sam Ersson yet, but number two, fans haven't figured out how to attack Sam Ersson yet. So now they can dream on Ersson being this guy, whereas Hart is the guy they've watched for long enough. They've seen him at his best. They've also seen him at his worst. And they believe that they know what he is, so that when he gives up a weak goal, like he did with the second goal of this game, it's, see, I told you he's not the guy. But Ersson is the guy because we haven't seen him make mistakes yet, when we know he will eventually make those mistakes, because I do not think he is a second coming of Henrik Lundqvist. I think he is a good goalie. I do not think he is a superstar goalie. I think it is possible he's a superstar goalie. It is a possible outcome. I do not think it is the most likely outcome. And I think that Hart is taking a little bit more heat than he deserves to take right now because people are watching Ersson and like the grass is always greener on the other side, and Ersson's grass that looks very green at the moment. I think Hart has been fine. I think Hart could be better. I would like to see him clean up some of the weak goals, but I think on the whole this season, Carter Hart has been fine.
I know it always comes up and it's like, what can you really say about it? But just in terms of fans maybe turning on Hart or hedging their bets a little, like, oh, I was always Team Ersson anyway.
Yeah.
How much do you think the Hockey Canada think? Because it's definitely part in my mind.
I think it plays into it.
I'm like, well, we got Ersson, so
well, I think that there's two ways that that's having impact. Number one, it's having an impact because you could wake up the next day and Hart is gone. Like, he's just not a factor anymore because he was named in this and he's suspended. And also, even if he's not suspended, do you even really want him on your team anymore? There's that. So there's almost the feeling of like, you know, you might be thinking in your head, I'm not even depending on Hart, so having Ersson solves that problem. Then there's the simple fact that I do think, and I don't think this is necessarily fair to Hart, but I get it from the people who have made this thought in their mind, is that there are people that probably do feel legitimately uncomfortable rooting for Carter Hart right now, not knowing if he was involved in a really terrible thing. And I suspect that some of those people are finding it very easy to jump on the Ersson bandwagon because in their heads, and I don't think, especially if it turns out, well, not especially, if it turns out that Hart was not at all involved in this whatsoever, it is very unfair to Hart that he is taking a hit from a popularity standpoint for something he didn't do. But I get why fans are hesitant to like give their heart in full to someone who may have been involved in something terrible. I get it, and I could see that playing into the fact that some people are going full Team Ersson. I could see that being a part of it.
As well as we talked about this on Saturday, like the ceiling, like I could see it being like when Ersson has his year, when he's on, he's a Vezina guy, and then he might have some downtimes where Carter Hart just might be like the 12th best goalie in hockey for his entire career. And I'm just looking at, it's a dumb thing, and the sample size is real small. But we're looking at like 28 career starts or something, like 26 career starts and 4 career shutouts for Sam Ersson versus 216 career starts and 6 shutouts for Carter. Just like his ceiling seems to be very high. Whether he reaches, listen, we've been talking about guys' ceilings forever. I thought Ivan Provorov was the next Duncan Keith at one point. I was very wrong about that. Yeah, but it's just like, I understand why people might feel that way. And then the other thing on top of it kind of, well, yeah, that's how we're feeling.
I mean, but the flip side of that, because you can look at it and you can say that, well, yeah, he has 4 shutouts in 28 games. He also has 3 games where he's given up 5 or more goals. So, and I don't know enough about Sam Ersson at the NHL level to know if that's him. But could it be possible that he is a high variance goalie where he has these really great highs, but when he's not on, man, he friggin' sucks? I don't know. But if you're gonna say that, well, he has 4 shutouts in 28 games, you also have to say that, well, he's had 3 absolute disasters in 28 games too.
No, he's got.
There's a reason why he has 4 shutouts and his career save percentage is like .908.
Yes, 906.
There we go. I just pulled that out of my ass. It's pretty close though.
You nailed it. And like he's got. According to a Hockey Reference, I always use the really bad starts because I just think that's a hilarious name for a statistic. Starts with a save percentage below 85% for in those 28 starts.
Yeah.
That's a decent percentage.
Yeah.
Like
if you're going to give him credit for having a high shutout rate in 28 starts, you have to also ding him for having a high real bad start rate too.
All right, this show, apparently time is absolutely flying tonight. We're at like an hour now.
Hell yeah.
So without further ado, we have a couple more things I want to get to, but none of them are more important than Charlie O'Connor's 3 stars of the game. Chuck, hit me with star number 3.
I will hit you with Scott Laughton as star number 3. I thought he had a good game. Obviously gets the goal, but I think to me the big thing for Laughton, and this is also going to hold true for the guy who I will give my 2nd star to, in the absence of Sean Couturier, someone like Scott Laughton has to step up. He has to. And I think he has. I think in this game, obviously, he scores the goal. Yeah, it was off of a big rebound. Still got to finish, though. And I thought Laughton gave the Flyers a lot of really good shifts in this game. I thought all too often this season, Scott Laughton's lines have gotten obliterated at 5-on-5 in terms of shot and chance differential. Tonight, Scott Laughton, when he was on the ice, the Flyers controlled play. Looking at his numbers, finished with a 53.18% expected goals for percentage, a 58.33 Corsi for percentage. So the Flyers controlled play with him on the ice. He gets the goal. I thought he played an all-around strong game. So Scott Laughton is my 3rd star of the night.
Let's get to star number 2.
Star number 2 is John Tortorella's favorite player, Morgan Frost. I thought Frost was great in this game. I know, he actually finishes, and this is, again, speaks to what I'm saying about his favorite player. Guess who led the forward core in minutes tonight?
Oh, my God.
Morgan Frost.
In the absence of...
Morgan Frost.
In the absence of every coach's favorite player ever, Sean Couturier, Morgan Frost steps in and plays 18 minutes and 7 seconds. Nobody else played over 18. Yeah, that's wow.
But I thought
the coach is loving this guy.
I mean, I'm telling you, all he had to do was go in and yell at Torts, and now Torts loves him. Clearly, that's all he needed to do. He just needed to yell at him.
This ends with him wearing the C, man. I'm telling you, like Vinny LeCavalier and John Tortorella were enemies. And now they talk on the phone regularly.
Do they?
Yes.
Has that actually been confirmed? Because they were enemies they never really buried the hatchet. My understanding of the Tampa thing was that the owner brought the 2 of them in and basically were like, I'm not firing you. I'm not trading you. You might hate each other, but you better learn how to coexist because neither of you are going anywhere.
I mean, they did.
They did. They won a cup out of it.
One dude's going to the both are going to the Hall of Fame. They won a cup. No, it was one of the interviews I heard with former guys, and it was like, yeah, man, like they talk all the time, apparently. Like,
fair.
When Vinny has something going on in his life, he like calls up Coach.
That's cool. I didn't know that. But anyway, getting back to Morgan Frost. Yes. Not only the fact that he got a lot of minutes, I thought from the jump in this game, Morgan Frost had jump. He was everywhere. He was flying. And we've talked about this over the last couple post games, the big thing that was a ding against Frost when he was a prospect was he may be a good skater, but he doesn't play with pace frequently enough. I thought in this game he was playing with pace from the very first shift. He was flying. He was showing speed. He was carrying the puck with aggressiveness, with confidence. He gets an assist, but to me, he played the kind of game that could have been a 3-point night.
I mean, that's this. I said this earlier, but like this team's inability to finish. Like, they kicked the shit out of the Blues tonight.
Yeah.
And it ends up being, now they get the empty netter to, cover the 1.5. Thanks a lot. But, like, it's a 1-goal game that they could have won 5-0.
Yeah.
And it was just, they don't have that high-end finish.
But they got the win.
They got the win.
So that's
absolutely.
all that matters.
And
2
so
points are 2 points.
Absolutely. And let's finish it with Charlie O'Connor's first star of the game.
Well, come on. And it's obviously Owen Tippett. I mean, and not even just because of the ridiculous goal, which it was a ridiculous goal, might be the best Flyers goal of the year so far. He goes through the defense and scores on a ridiculous roof backhander. It was an awesome play.
The move was, I didn't know he had that in him.
So good. And that's exactly what I want to see from him. Like, don't just score your goals by sniping it.
Yeah.
Go to the net, be that power forward that you have the physical ability to be. He was doing that pretty much from the jump. Has 10 shots on goal in this one.
10.
He had 5 after the first period, 8 after 2 periods. He was just dominant. This was a game where Owen Tippett, especially in the absence of Sean Couturier, basically was like, I'm going to be the best player on the ice tonight. And he was the best player on the ice tonight. And he's the first star. I think this was as much of a no-brainer number 1 first star. It was obviously Owen Tippett.
When the team comes back and when you're around them again next, Charlie, I need to know if TK is charging him for his sticks. That's something
I do want to get a little bit more detail on the stick thing, because it's something the broadcast brought up, but I haven't had, because I obviously wasn't on this trip. I will say, you know what? The fact that I'm going to give a little shout out to someone who understandably has gotten a lot of hate over the last week. I would not be here for these 3 post games if Cutter Gauthier did not force his way out of Philadelphia, because my original plan was I was going up, and this was planned months in advance. So this had nothing to do with anything aside from the fact that I wanted to do a feature on Cutter Gauthier. I was planning to not go on this trip because I was going to be in Boston to watch 2 Cutter Gauthier games and hopefully interview him. And then I was going to go to London, Ontario and interview Denver Barkey and Oliver Bonk. Obviously, Cutter Gauthier forces his way out of Philadelphia, gets traded. I am not going to go up to Boston to interview Cutter Gauthier after that because he ain't going to talk to me. He clearly ain't talking to anybody Flyers related. So we ditched the trip. Let me put it this way. Had I not had that trip planned that long in advance, I probably would have at least went on some of this trip. Instead, I'm here. I am doing the post game in studio for these 3 road games. They win all 3 road games. So you know what? Thank you, Cutter Gauthier, for making it so I didn't have to go to Winnipeg and St. Louis.
And that makes my life so much easier when Charlie's here and I can all right, I got to set up one of these ad reads. I can let him talk so I can find it rather than just vamp while I'm scrolling like I have to do when you're at the Wells Fargo Center. So thank you, Cutter. Not only did you give us Jamie Drysdale, you've made my life much easier this week. I don't want to... Yeah, I don't really care to do the Jamie Drysdale conversation tonight. We can do it later.
Yeah.
I don't care about his durability right now.
The guy's sick. He's allowed to get sick. It happens.
Allegedly.
Bill. God.
I know. God. All right. Before we wrap things up tonight, I got to tell you about Rocket Money. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that finds and cancels your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills. I can see all of my subscriptions in one place, and if I see something I don't want, I can cancel it with just a tap. I never have to get on the phone with customer service. They'll even try to get you a refund for the last couple of months of wasted money and negotiate to lower your bills for you by up to 20%. All you have to do is take a picture of your bill, and Rocket Money takes care of the rest. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has helped save its members an average of $720 a year with over $500 million in canceled subscriptions. You're like, oh, just a few bucks here, a few bucks there for your subscription services. Yeah, it all adds up, man. It all adds up. $720 a year on average. And if you are someone with just a couple of bucks, think about what the high end of that must be to make the average $720. They're here to save you money. So stop wasting money on things you don't use. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions by going to rocketmoney.com/PHLY. That's rocketmoney.com/PHLY. rocketmoney.com/PHLY. Why? All right, Charlie. Do you have anything else you want to get to, or is that it for the night?
No, I think we had a good post game show. We were able to.
I pissed you off.
We were able to wash away some of the bad vibes from the Eagles by talking about the good Philadelphia sports team.
The best team in the city won its 4th in a row tonight. And I think that's the most important thing that happened in all of Philadelphia sports. Also, the Sixers won in a blowout today. So winter sports killing it.
Yeah.
Fall sport over. All right. That is all the time we have for you on PHLY Flyers. But remember, we are presented by our friends at Mortgage CS. Mortgage CS, that CS stands for Concierge Service. They are here for all of your home buying needs. That concierge, man, like think about what that really means. Customer service is their number one priority, being there for you 24/7. And that's why Ben Stucker, he's not just here to answer like, oh, yeah, you hire them. You're looking to get a mortgage. You're going to go through a couple of, okay, we're going to go with Mortgage CS. No, he's here for you the entire process, beginning, middle, and end, all the way up until you've got the house.
There you go.
That's right. You've got the house. And you can call him anytime, even if you're not trying to buy a house at this very minute. You can call or text Ben Stucker, the company's CEO, at 267-391-7425.
I'm sure he's very angry about the Eagles. So if you just want to vent to someone,
yeah,
Ben's
I'm
there.
sure he'll have a lot to say about what's been going on, whether it's with the Eagles or maybe he's just turning the page, looking ahead to the Flyers and looking ahead to the Sixers. This is what I do. I'm trying to bring up the thing I have to read at the end.
The disclaimer.
And I lost it again. Somehow I do this every show. It's truly unbelievable. But yeah, Mortgage CS, whether you're right now trying to buy a home, down the line, you want to know what it takes in a couple of months, a couple of years, whatever, they are here for you to answer all of your questions. So when you hear the word mortgage, think of Mortgage CS. Think of Ben and his partner Alex. Save Ben's telephone number, which I already gave you. You can also email him, ben@mortgagecs.com. Text him anytime. Check out mortgagecs.com/PHLY to get started. This advertisement is not a commitment to lend or extend credit. Mortgage CS is an equal housing opportunity mortgage broker. All loans are subject to credit approval. Certain restrictions may apply. Company NMLS ID number 1464766. Visit mortgagecs.com for more information. Make sure you go mortgagecs.com/PHLY so we get credit for it, because I'm an egomaniac and constantly need credit. All right, that is all the time we have for you on PHLY Flyers tonight. Thank you all for listening. Thank you for hanging out. You know where to find us, right here on YouTube. Set those reminders. Never miss a live show. Follow us on Twitter at PHLY_Flyers. And, the podcast, PHLY Flyers, wherever you get those pods, you know what to do. My name is Bill Matz for Charlie O'Connor. Go Flyers.
Jeffrey Lurie, fire the coaches.
We all silly like the mayor.